house one step round. And I think I'm being videoed this evening, so hello to me on the video. And in case Nan ever gets a chance to watch this, I'll go through the formalities first. First of all, I'll bring you greetings from my boss, Nan. Yeah, Nan McCreading, because I'm an RIBI Community Service Chair. But I also bring you greetings from my own club, the Rotary Club of Hounslow, and from Quinton Edgington. And did you not know Quinton's a member of our club?
He's moved around a bit, old.
Well, he's moved from...
He's time, old Quint's moved around quite a lot.
Yeah, the only time I've known him from Teddington and Hamptons, and then he came to Hounslow.
Yeah.
But his job is such that he's now a general manager for Lodge Brothers, so he covers up the geographical area of the London Borough of Hounslow.
He was a councillor. He was a level 3 councillor.
Was he? Okay. Are there any spare copies left?
Yeah. Yes.
Could you send those back to me at the front? Wonderful. Thank you. I'll send a soft copy of this to you all or through the president. Firstly, let me thank you for being invited this evening. I didn't get my leg broken, my arm twisted, or anything like that. I've actually been saying to clubs, please feel free to invite me to come along to this, because this evening the idea is that you get an insight into what club visioning is. And this is part 2 of the stage. Part 1 is when you make the invitation. I turn up, or one of my colleagues, and we tell you about what club visioning is all about. We then allow you to consider what it implies, and then if you follow it through, then there's another session which we would need to organise at some time, and that will probably involve myself coming along or a couple of my colleagues as well. We're fortunate in our district that as we're merging with District 1250, my counterpart John Watkins and I are working together. So if I can't attend, he comes along. So like in a couple of weeks' time, I'm actually attending the meeting in Twickenham upon Thames, and he's covering for me at another event, because they're both clashing. And it's very nice that he's able to do that. So we're actually gaining some positiveness, by actually doing the merge. Okay. Now, my presentation is up there, and I'm going to walk you through it. The idea is that we'll talk through what visioning is, what it could mean to your club, where we go, and allowing you to have questions. What I will say for questions, please feel free to ask if necessary. Don't feel that you'll have to wait till the end. The reason being that sometimes they're so important that you may forget them later on. So if there is something urgent, please feel free to ask. It'll take me about 20 minutes to walk through this. And if there are questions, as I said, feel free to ask. Okay? The idea in terms of what visioning is, there are a number of points up there, but what I will say to you is it started in America by Rotarians, which is quite important. Many people think, oh, it's come from some weird consultancy or something. And myself, coming from a consultancy background, I can assure you that it's been done by some very professional Rotarians. I was very fortunate enough to actually get my training and support from them. It allows you as a club to think about something called the vibrancy scale. Anyone got an idea of what the vibrancy scale is? And none of you men start saying anything silly, all right? Otherwise I'm coming to beat you up.
I assume it's something to do with at the high level of vibrancy, it's an organisation that is buzzing, it's willing to change, it's wanting to do things. But the low level of vibrancy...
You haven't seen the slides, have you?
Well, I was involved in visioning in the late 80s. All right. But anyway, but it's something like that.
Absolutely. If you've worked in a corporate environment, a lot of the things you're going to hear are very much geared up towards that. And what you said, Jeremy, fits in very well. It's how people feel within the club and how you can make things happen. And quite often, as you progress up, things are happening automatically. Right? There's no kind of, oh, we did this 20 years ago, we don't want to do this again. It's more of a case of planning things through, trying things out, but not ruling things out which have been done so many years ago. We don't want to hear any Mr. Grumpies or Miss Grumpies telling us things like that. Okay? Many of you have heard of the fact that as you develop, things change, and that's the great thing about visioning. As you progress, it's an ongoing development of the processes which you have. A couple of years ago, we adopted it within our IBI, and you'll be asking the question of where else in the world is it? It's actually, guess what? In most of our Commonwealth neighbours. That's really important because many people think it's purely just American. It's actually very well adopted down in Australia, New Zealand, and in Canada, which are areas which you may not believe are places where Rotary is actually falling down in terms of numbers. In areas like in in Korea and in India, Rotary membership is going through the roof. There are new clubs and new districts being formed all the time. They've got people queuing up like it used to be in Rotary 20, 30 years ago. And they're having to create new clubs. In what would be the heartlands of traditional Rotary, we're having this challenge where people just haven't adapted with change. And I'm hoping that with visioning, and as I go around the clubs, you'll be able to see some of the advantages of what we can do. I mentioned about our merger with District 1250. We've already had a session where we've got the two respective teams together and actually thought about how visioning could help as part of the merger process. We've also got agreement that for the next 3 years plus, we've got commitment from within the new district and the existing district to actually support this. And that's really quite important because both myself and John Watkins refused to take on this role unless we had that commitment. Because you need to have a continuous process. You know, lots of people say, oh, we brought something in and we'll get rid of it after a little while. I believe passionately in this that we need to think about supporting the clubs in being able to do these things. I can't dictate to you what's going on because you're autonomous and I wouldn't feel comfortable telling you what to do. What I can do is bring you some ideas and hopefully inspire you. So, a little bit about visioning. As I mentioned, it started back in 2002 with a husband and wife team, both consultants and both Rotarians. It spread to Canada first, then down to New Zealand, Australia, and now across the 29 regions in RIBI. And there are 94 districts in the world which are using the visioning techniques, which is basically about a fifth of the Rotary world. There are 500 and something districts around the world, and if you imagine 94 are now using it, and if you add the 29 from RIBI to it, we've gone over the fifth. And more districts are picking it up as well. Many people think about visioning as being just for recruiting new members. Let's get this clear, it's not about new members. It's about looking at your club and what you would like to be able to do. It's nothing to do with future vision, if any of you are foundation experts. Yeah? And it's not something the district team, which includes myself, or the DG is going to tell you you must do. It's an invitation. You've invited me, and I will just go through it. And it's one very important thing. It's not a quick fix. It's a planned program. And if you think this is going to be a bit of pixie dust and everything will become fine, it's not the case. Many of you will have done various traditional type things of having membership evenings, having club evenings and doing all sorts of things to let people know what you're up to. Is this okay, Simon? I'm standing here. I'm trying to hold on to this so I don't move away from there. In companies, you will have heard these expressions of continuity, consistency, and consensus. And within our own Rotary organisation, we will not succeed unless you've got those three things. Because all of you have to buy into this. It really does mean, getting that kind of, we will do it together. And it's an old expression of strength in numbers. Yeah? Every one of you in this club, or within any club, brings something special to the party, I call. Each of you are a specialist. Yeah? And that's the great thing about Rotary. That we all bring something special to the party, we're all able to use those skills. And if there are two of you, even better. Because in the old days, you could only have one accountant and one doctor, one dentist. That's not the case now. In my own club, we've just been about to recruit 2 new members. We will now have the 4th accountant in our club.
That's 3. That's 4 too many.
Oh, exactly. But they're absolutely wonderful guys. Right? And I'm from an IT background and finance background, but we've just the new person coming in. He's a brother of the other guy, and he's an IT and business consultant. We just want to have good members. All right? And I think that's an important thing which people forget, that you are not tied into that. And it's really important that when you're doing any of your activities. So, let's talk about effective clubs. You've heard of that expression before? Effective clubs?
Yeah. We've had rumours.
Well, no. I was just saying, visioning. Yeah, let's just say, visioning is not about membership. What I'm going to say, effective clubs, right, sustain and increase their membership. The biggest area we have, problem area we have, is not membership. We recruit so many hundreds of thousands of people around the world. What we're not good at doing is retaining them. Okay? So there's something to think about. Because we've been at 1.2 million for over 10 years. Yeah? So we must be recruiting a shed load of people, because when there's a bad winter, we lose a few, don't we? What are effective clubs also? How many of you get involved with your local projects? I know you do, because I've come along to them. Right? But the greatest thing is, people recognise Rotary for your community projects. And that's why the theme about where for communities. I can twist any story to reflect that where for communities. If you're in the United States, community means both home and away. Domestic projects and international projects. In RIBI, we have community and we have international. Community tends to focus on domestic projects. And these days, more and more of our projects are focused at home, because with this economic situation. But I also look at it as an opportunity. It's a real opportunity to show people what we've been doing for over 100 years. So I think that's a really important thing about successful service projects, whether they're overseas or domestic. Effective clubs also contribute towards the Rotary Foundation. This evening you could have done a simple thing. I know your club has already done it, but the world's greatest meal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? We've raised now, since that simple idea, over $600,000. Can you imagine? $600,000 from a simple idea, just a social media idea. No restrictions, just get on with it. And have a bit of fun. But the Rotary Foundation is our foundation. It's our charity. Okay, it's got an American name on it, but it's charity. It's our charity. And the deal at the moment with the Gates Foundation, you can't get a better return on your investment, can you? Give £1, you get another £2 on, so it becomes 3. I know you've got Superman and Supergirl there, but I do think there are people in this room who could well do lots of things within our own region, our district, and go beyond. They just need to say, I'd like to do it. Not a case of being forced to, but I'm sure you would love it. I found that when I was a younger Rotarian, and I still discover that I am a younger Rotarian when I attend meetings, yeah, it's quite shocking.
So true.
Yeah, it's quite shocking. You go to these, big meetings, and I look around and I think, gosh, I'm getting older. They're getting even older. We're the new blood. But it's important to recognise that I found that.
They're here.
They're here. Well, you could come along to become regional people. Come and join some of the committees. What you'll find is that you're not just a member of your club, but you're a member of another club, the district team. And it's a great way to use some of your vocational skills, because that's what's always lacking, getting people enthused to come along. And I always make sure I try and inspire them to say, just come along and try it out. If you don't like it, fine. But have a go first before you make up your mind. But all those things make up an effective club. It really does. I go around the district and I know who those effective clubs are. You are in one of that category, by the way. I always tell people about what you do. And if you don't know about it, look at my Facebook page. And I mention Surbiton all the time. I know this because...
Is it also true, okay, I mean, that's a very good analysis of what an effective club is. Isn't an effective club also one which people are enjoying getting something from, belonging to anyway? I mean, it's also something about the nature of...
I think the word you're looking for is fellowship.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I think fellowship sometimes needs defining a bit. It's that people actually do enjoy going, which is not always true for everyone.
I enjoy going to my club on Monday evenings. I really look forward to it during the week. I'm fortunate I also get a chance to visit other clubs as well. And whenever the club president says to me, so where have you been this week? And I say, well, if I tell you too many things, you're all going to get bored. But I had a really fun-packed week. Last week I was in Mill Hill and I forgot that some of the members from Mill Hill had actually come to our club. And we'd done a project with them in Israel. And they were there. Oh, hello Walter, didn't know you remembered this club. Oh yeah. So it's that sort of type of thing. I enjoy myself, and that's the bit. I've met so many friends, or made so many friends, thanks to Rotary. And I wouldn't be here today, with my health and all those other things, if I didn't have my Rotary. They were so supportive when I needed the help. So Jeremy, I think, if you don't like coming to Rotary, I think that's something else, but I do think the emotional part, the fun part, is we've got friends, and we've got 1.2 million friends around the world. I went to a conference this weekend, and people were coming up to me, having photographs of me. And they said, he really does exist.
You had chocolate on your stand though.
Oh yeah, but they were all friends of mine.
Yeah.
Well, they're all my friends. They all came up and had photographs. They said, yeah, Rakesh really does exist. And they're putting them all over Facebook and wherever else. Which is wonderful, because it means that it's another way to actually share the weekend and whatever we've done. I wouldn't get that otherwise, I tell you. But in terms of, let's go back to the process, because I've tried to set the scene of what a club is and how the club works and so on. The Rotary world is big, we know that. Whenever you do any type of work, whether you're in your own business or you're working for a corporate, you always think forward, correct? Yeah? You need to think about how you're going to plan for business. And then something will hit you from the left field. But you still keep going. It might take you a bit longer, or it might take you a bit shorter, it all depends. But you've got that direction, that's your vision. And you're planning. And in that plan, you'll put some risks. Some of them are manageable, and some aren't. The important thing about that is what are you going to do with that plan? Do you build plans in your club? I bet you do. You just haven't realised.
I think we do, but what we don't do is to take we have 1 year plans, we have operational plans, if you like.
Yep.
We then, I suspect we don't really have strategic plans. We are not asking ourselves, where do we want this club to be in 3 years' time or 5 years' time, or those sort of. I mean, I've never been present at a conversation that was about that.
Okay. I bet you do though. Let me put it this way.
We may do it implicitly.
Okay, I'll give you an example of what you may do. You're president, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right? You're coming up to the end of your term of office, aren't you?
Yes.
Before you became president, say about 6 months or before, were you thinking about what you wanted to do? Okay. Were you appointed into that role about 2 years before you took on that role?
Yes.
Now, 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago, you will have had some thoughts, okay, of what you wanted to achieve. That may be an operational plan, but it's a 3-year plan.
Yeah.
Did you share that with anybody?
I think I did speak to people about it at the time.
And I bet you any money the presidents in between also went through the same process. The difference is, what we need to be able to do is actually share that more with people within our club. When you're putting a 4-year plan in, because don't forget, in Rotary we're so good at doing this.
Actually, your point's very glibly made, but I think you're wrong.
Okay.
There's a real difference between having a thought about what you want to do in your year, and okay, because you know you're going to be president a year early, you have it a year early. And that is very different from saying, I have a view of how over the next 3 years I want this club to move. They are radically different things.
Okay.
And I think however way you express it, they
This
are
is
different
what
things.
about presidents, they might have a vision,
Yeah.
but then from the vision, they come down to an operational plan.
Okay.
Strategic plan,
Okay.
and then an
Yeah,
operational.
but we never have a strategic plan.
Let me
We've never had a strategic plan in this club.
Let me just go to the next sentence. Okay? The next sentence would have been, if the 4 presidents, and I call it the 4 presidents, the one who's in situ, and the other 2 coming along, and the one who's just gone, if they were together and they actually all said something similar, you would have had an agreement to say, this is the direction we're going at. Does that happen? So that's something to think about. And that's the thing I was just saying about the strategic. And Jeremy, that you're very right to point that out to me. I think that's the important part of thinking 3, 4, 5 years ahead. And what club visioning does is to enable the club, not the president, the club to come together and to think about it. And there are no wrong answers and there are no right answers. Because you, as the autonomous unit, the club, make that decision. Okay? So we're now into putting things into place. That's when you become the operational plan. So what Jeremy has said is going through, thinking about where we're going to go, and then as we get closer, you start putting it into place. Okay? Is that all right? I'm
Yeah,
sorry
so
to...
Can I throw the other thing?
Go
in?
ahead.
You keep revising, which I think supports what you're saying, is you keep revising it. So you have your 3 or 5 year plan. Every year you're re-looking at it and saying, well, as the goalposts change, so are we looking somewhere else?
Absolutely. I think I treat it, I'm very passionate about cricket. And I always use this expression of something hit me from the left field and something's hit me from the right field the following day, or even on the same day. What do I do? And I think that's the part which we as, we're all smart people in this room. We can actually make sure that we still stay on track. You're not smart? You're not smart? You're telling me you used to work for a skiing company.
It's
just
a quick mover.
He's a quick mover, is he? All right. So, let's think about it. I've led on to some of this. What could this mean for your club, this whole business? I actually think most clubs will become much more vibrant. Going back to your thing, we're going to go up into that area. If you don't dream that far, you won't get that far. And I still think about my own dad. He used to say, he said, look son, aim for Mars and you'll end up on the moon. But if you don't do anything, you'll still be sitting on Earth. And that's the same thing with your work you do within Rotary. Aim big. And somewhere in between, it'll be successful, I'm sure. More visible. I know that sometimes I get little snippets from this club telling me about what's been in the local press. And that's wonderful. And that's really important because we do so many good things. Guess what we forget to do in many places? Or people turn around and say, we told them, we told them, we told them. They don't do anything. The important thing is you keep telling them. Yeah? Do you remember the old training adage? You tell them, and you tell them again. And you keep telling them. And that's really, really important. If the local journalist or the local editor doesn't know what you're doing, how is he or she meant to make that decision? The focus at the moment, if you talk to a journalist, is what's happening in your local community. And it's really important that we get that message across. Because our clubs should be recognised for the work they do in the community. Yeah? It's that thing, that's what makes it happen. How many of you joined Rotary because of your community projects? 1, 2, I bet there's more.
I stayed in it because of the community.
Right. Well, I'd say half of the club. Because most of it, I joined Rotary because I enjoyed doing my community projects and someone said, go and do it. It was my uncle actually in Atlanta, but I don't know how he knew that I did all this work, but that was it, I blame him.
How else do you get to drive a motor? He's still on the moon.
Yeah, well, that wasn't why you joined. It was so you could wear the Santa suit.
No, I already know.
I wear a Santa suit all the time.
I've been on there, right? Mayor's wear Santa suit.
Yeah. When the kids see me at Christmas time, they say, gosh, where have you been? I said, oh, I've just been to the Caribbean. Beautiful, right? But it got to get a bit warm for me, getting big and stuff. But still, going back to this, what do you think that does? Someone's going to turn around and say, hey, these guys are doing some really good things.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great to think about joining? Because that's why people join. They find out what great things you're up to. They're more likely to come that way.
Without sounding too much like a trawler, the important thing is that it's that way around, isn't it?
Yeah.
If we've got a more vibrant club, which is more visible, then we'll attract more members. To go out directly to get more members before it's more vibrant and more visible is actually quite a difficult thing.
Absolutely.
We're often trying to do that, I think.
Now you can see why I put it in that particular way. I've used this year's theme. Because that's what we do. Yeah? We actually make a difference, don't we? If you suddenly took Rotary out of your local community, how many things would not be there? And people would start saying, oh, didn't the Rotary Club used to do that?
Yeah.
Gosh, isn't that sad? And wouldn't it be nice to actually say to people, yeah, we love doing this. Wouldn't it be nice for you to come along and see what we do? So, let's talk about the visioning sessions. After this meeting, you'll have your council or whatever, and you can have a discussion, open discussion, or as at your own, don't have a speaker one week, just have a debate about this.
Yeah.
The questions you need to think about are these. It's a facilitated session, it doesn't cost you anything in terms of my time or my colleagues' time. We're giving it up because we believe in Rotary. I would recommend that perhaps you do it on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, because most people in the evening will have been at work all day, they're a bit tired, and most of them will be dozing off after the meal. You will not be allowed to doze off when you're in a facilitated session, I can assure you. I will be throwing sweets at you.
Happens you.
Yeah,
Nathan.
Yeah. You'll catch it. Okay.
You're taking my things, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right. But no, seriously, to make it, all the sessions I've been involved with, either as an independent facilitator or within our own district, the most successful ones have been on a morning.
Right, yes.
Everybody comes relaxed. It's a bit like today, but except we've got a few people suited, booted. I came relaxed because I thought it might kind of help you think about it in a bit more relaxed fashion as well.
Their vibrancy rate is higher in the morning.
Oh, absolutely. How did you guess? Especially mine. We'll use some of the things, and I'm sure that some of you will recognise it if you've been working in a consultancy environment or in a corporate. If you've been working as a small entrepreneur, some of them you may have recognised, but I think it would be really good for you to be able to spot some of these things. The questions you're going to ask is, who are we? Does anybody ask that question? What is the Rotary Club of Surbiton? What values does it stand for? It's a really serious question. And if I asked you all to do it now and write down in no more than 50 words, or even let's say 140 characters. Yeah? Yeah, in 140 characters, what is the Rotary Club of Surbiton? Yeah, and who are we? That'd be an interesting one, wouldn't it? Where are we? And it's not a case of we're down by the river, okay? It's more of a case of where are we in terms of our journey? Yeah? Because it's a journey you're on. It's a journey Rotary's been on for over 100 years. And if you went back 100 years and you looked at what Rotary was and where we are today, some of the core principles are still there, but we've all moved on. Most important question, where do we want to be? Anyone know?
Well, I guess we probably all know about where we think we ought to be, but have we had the discussion to form a consensus?
Absolutely, and that's what the visioning session will do, because it will allow you to have free text. It will allow you to be able to share that anonymously to some degree, and then you'll find some common thoughts. And how are we going to get there? It needs hands, it needs a bit of brain, and a bit of nous. It really does. And it's that common value which we all have. Then you've also got to remember when you're at work, or you've set a target or something, how will you know when you've got there? Because lots of people have these visions, but how will we know when we've got there? And that's really important. Here are some of the topics. I've alluded to some of them. What do we stand for in the community, in our local community here in Surbiton? You've got Big Brother down the road, Kingston. Yeah? Well, they say they're big anyway. They do their own thing, don't they?
Yes, I do.
Yeah? Well, they are big, aren't they? They're actually having a visioning session done.
They're numerous.
They are.
Is that the same as big?
Well, some of them are big. Mr. Hickson's up here, isn't he? Yeah, but he's part of my team.
I know.
He's part of our visioning team.
Yeah, you can see that.
And what they've asked for is an independent person come in. So my colleague John Watkins is going to go and do their visioning session. Which is great, because John and myself work together. And that's how we've done it. I've gone and done a session at Luton, because somebody said the same thing. We'd like someone outside of our district to come and run the session. Where do you want to think about in terms of the club size and attributes? Do you understand that word attribute? And I think it's a really important question. Because you'll be asked, where do I want to be in 5 years' time? In terms of as a club. We look at service. You know the different avenues of service within Rotary? Each club has its unique set. I know my own club, we focus on youth services. Yeah. And we focus on foundation. If anybody came along and they saw our annual report, you'll find two things which stand out. Foundation and youth services. And I bet you in this club, if I asked around, at least 50% of you will give the same answer. The other 50% will say, I'm not sure. And that's really important to be able to share that with your colleagues. Thinking about foundation, because that's what our charity is and how it supports. And finally, public image. What are people's perceptions? What do they think of the Rotary Club of Surbiton? Or what do they think of Rotary? And perhaps you can use some of the skills within the club to perhaps change people's perceptions. Once you've run the session, the 4-hour session, 3 to 4 hour session, I would hope that you would have an output such as this. You would have a shared commitment. All of you have taken part. And it's really important that when you run the visioning session, as many of you come along. If it's a club in the size of about 25, 20 members, if 80% aren't there, I don't bother to turn up. Because it's pointless. However, if 80% are those people who regularly come, it's great. That, for me, means 100%. Because there will be some people, due to illness, health, or travel, okay, they can't be there. But as long as the people who come regularly, right, they are the ones who kind of make the club happen. And I use that because other techniques haven't worked. And I think that's probably the best one. It gives you, as a club, some direction, some targets, some objectives of where you're heading. But you can change them because circumstances change. That framework I just talked about, to be able to do any of those activities, you need resources. You need the skills, those vocational skills I call, within a club. Without that, it's going to be tough. And I won't mess about that. I said it will be tough. And then the word optimise. There will be people in this club who love to do something, but they're kind of shy. Yeah? I think it would be lovely if I could come to a club and someone say, we're thinking about this, and all of them stand up and say, I'd like to take part. Yeah? And also think about, it shouldn't be just on a core group of people who do all the work. I think that's where the shared responsibility comes in. And that's not mentioned, but I use the word optimise. When we've done the session, I will hand over that information to one of you in the club. That one person will then work with the club president, or your executive team, or your council, whatever you decide. Because it's your piece of work, it's not mine. I don't take it away with me. It'd be expected that someone will write it up and share it amongst yourselves. But as a facilitator, I'm actually going to go one step further. I will offer you my services to help you formulate, what you come up with. Just as an independent. I will not put many of my ideas into it, but I will act in terms of helping you. You'll be able to. Anyone heard of that expression, the elevator speech, why am I in Rotary? Be able to say, what does your club stand for? Why did I join Rotary? What is Rotary special to me? You should be able to get this plan then confirmed at your council meeting, at your club council meeting. You should be able to create a 3 to 5 year plan. You'll have the one which you're operating on, because your club president says, next year, I'm going to do this. But if you've got a 3 to 5 year plan, you could actually integrate that as you're going along and carry on developing it. and think about your goals. All of your particular avenues of service. Use ideas from other people as well. There are so many ideas out there, you wouldn't believe. And now I'm in the RIBI community service, role. I am absolutely kind of shocked by how many different things people get up to. It's really brilliant. And they all get on with it. No one needs to tell them what to do, they just get on with it. But you might want to think about sharing those or working with other people. So, what are the benefits? I've told you what you can do. I think the most important thing is you have a consensus as a club of where you're going. You've got clarity as members on what we stand for. i.e., I'm proud to say I'm a member of Rotary Club of Surbiton, and this is what the values I stand for. It also will help you in terms of a vision to think about recruitment. You might turn around and say, well, in 5 years' time, this club is going to have 30 members. The question is, how are you going to get towards that membership of 30? What do you need to do? And hopefully you'll come up with some ideas. Continuity in the projects. You do an amazing project in the what do you call it? In the High Street. You know when you... Yeah, the Surbiton Festival. It's absolutely amazing. And how much is done to bring that together?
Lots.
Yeah, okay, lots. You said lots.
Just kind of make it up.
But the lots, one of the things which Rotarians are brilliant at doing is actually pulling those resources together. Yeah? There might be a group of people who just kind of think, what do I do here? But I bet you any money, most clubs are brilliant at actually saying, well, if you did this, you did this, you did this, we can come together and we'll produce this. You act as the facilitators, or I call the catalysts.
Yeah.
I see this all the time. Confirm your relevance to the community. Isn't that important? Because I think all of you make a difference. And I go back to what I said in the beginning. If they took Rotary away from your community, people will think, oh yeah, gosh, I only wish I'd kind of helped out. Isn't that kind of little hook to grab those people? Also amongst yourselves, some of you may be chairs or secretaries of local associations. Tell them what you do. It's not a secret handshake. Yeah? That's what most people still think of Rotary. That we're Masons in disguise. I remember watching a BBC documentary. They actually said, if you want to do things in the community, become a Rotarian. If you want to just go to a dining club, become a Mason. Mind you, I have so many friends who are Masons, and I know that they do so much charitable work as well. But I thought to myself very carefully when somebody said that, especially on the BBC, on a documentary. They said, if you want to do something in the community, become a Rotarian. I thought that was a brilliant sales pitch. Okay, we're nearly there. As I talked to you about 3-year programme, there's myself, I've got about half a dozen volunteers, but because we're combining as a district, we've probably got about a dozen volunteers now. I've done the visioning sessions, I'm going around the clubs, and we've already done some pilots in our area. This is how we started. We had Sutton, Chertsey, Croydon South, Croydon East, Purley, Hounslow and Feltham. We did those as pilots. What we did find was that some of those clubs felt that they needed to do it with another club. And actually, I thought to myself, that's not a bad idea, but are you getting your own club's speciality. You know, what makes you the Rotary Club of Surbiton or the Rotary Club of Hounslow? And I've said, well, okay, I'll come and do a mini version. So it is still possible to do something. We've got the facilitation, we're doing sessions with 1250. That's it. I hope that kind of give you some food for thought. I'm really happy that you ask questions in between, but I'm still open for more questions. All right. And I've been on YouTube.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah, there's no need to be boastful about that stuff.
No, I'm already on YouTube. You can look for me on there.
Yeah.
Someone called Mike Thorne took a picture, a video of me dancing, and that was for N Podio Now. So
Not in your pudsey suit.
There are
not in my pudsey suit.
there are
No.
undesirable parts of the Thorn family,
Yeah.
I've always said.
But seriously, any questions? Otherwise, I'll need
What's
that.
I mean, if we had discussed this and then the next few weeks saying yes, we want to go ahead with it, and clearly you and your colleagues are under severe demand, I guess, on this. So what's the sort of time lag before it's deliverable?
I can always ask John Watkins, my counterpart, to run the session.
Yeah.
It's just a question of, if you say to us, you'd like to try and do it within the next 1 month or 2
Oh,
months,
so that's fine.
right?
That's as
But
close
I
as
will
anyone's
be
gonna
out of
get.
commission because my daughter's getting married.
You
And
don't mind
I'm-
coming away to do it,
yeah, thanks. I think my wife flies back, well, she's actually on an aeroplane now. She's probably boarding. So that's why I could come here without asking permission. All right? But seriously, from the middle to the end of May, I'm shutting down my Rotary activities for the month of June. So if anything needs to be done...
But it
it'll
can be done pretty quickly, is
It's just a question of finding the resources. But if you give us some options, but I think the Saturday or the Sunday, yeah, is worth thinking about. You know, this facility in here is great, yeah? Because what we need to have is some whiteboards, being able to put sheets up, and things like that.
And no interruption, really. I suppose it's
Interruptions, no, we want interruptions, but from you guys, from external. Yeah. But I do think it's doable, within the next couple of months. But you have your council meeting, and you can make that decision. And then if you say to John and myself, provided the summer holidays were not impacted by folks, I think we can probably come along.
Okay.
All right? And if you want an independent person, John will be your independent person. Okay.
Not that we were interested.
We just want a person.
Any other questions from Mukesh? Thank you for coming along, Mukesh, at very short notice. It is always a pleasure to see you. You're always invited to come along to us. Thanks very much for giving you your vision of visioning. I think we're all switched on to doing so as a club to undertaking visioning. We will sit and discuss a date and come back to you with an invitation to a date and take it from there. Thank you.
Can we to leave now? How long is your meeting going to last for?
It shouldn't, hopefully, be too long.
2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
I just like to enjoy listening to what other clubs are up to, that's why.
You're more,
Before you go, have you got June Fox's paper? Okay.
you're more than welcome to have
Remember about it.
We're not,
It's at home.
we don't act on our, these as being secret schools.
Okay. I'll start packing up my kit.
Okay.